Howdy ho, South Hills. It's Mr. Burley with another history lesson. Okay, so we have gone through the whole revolution. We've got the Articles of Confederation down, and now today it's the Constitutional Convention. The previous video that I put out there talked about the limitations and problems with the Articles of Confederation, which had major issues, specifically the lack of any federal government, which is completely not functional. And our founding fathers saw these limitations and needed to fix them. So the story begins in 1787. In 1787, in middle of May, the Constitutional Convention starts, and our founding fathers are able to shape a very, very functional and actually pretty darn good government. The Constitution is the bedrock law of the land. It's the law that tells you how to make laws and how laws are made and tested in this country. So it basically is the most important single set of laws that we have. The Constitution was basically the founding fathers able to take a deep breath, a step back, and really look carefully at how are we going to make a government of the people, by the people, for the people, actually function. And they did a pretty good job of it, but there's no such thing as a perfect law. The Constitution had flaws right off the bat that were exposed pretty quickly. However, the beauty of our founding fathers, super smart, is they actually made the Constitution amendable, meaning you can fix it if it has problems. And it has been already amended 27 times, and that's not going to be the end of it. As our country continues to grow and times change and needs change, our Constitution indelibly will also change with the times. Okay, so as you can see on your screen, the Constitutional Convention is our topic for today. I am not going to go into the details of the frame of our government so much today. This video is really going to be more about the who was there, why were they there, and some of the bigger, broader issues. So we'll go into the details of how our government's framed later on in the next video, or maybe 2 videos. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So, like I said, the Constitution was written in Philadelphia in the year 1787, and they wrote it in this building called Independence Hall, which I'm going to show you a picture of here pretty soon. It was a hot, nasty, balmy summer. It was kind of a known thing about that particular time is like it was like this crazy hot summer. And so basically, what's a convention? Well, a convention is just a group of professionals who get together. If you think about a convention today, that's the same idea. Well, it's not much different for the Constitutional Convention. It's a group of professionals. These are like all of the leaders of the 13 colonies. They all come together into one place, and then they debate, they discuss, and then they hammer out a constitution. It was a ton of work. Like one thing I was always kind of amazed with is the amount of different opinions and different ideas on how our government should be framed were able to be compromised and worked through to actually create a constitution. Sadly, and this is just my commentary on today, I would be very, very surprised if the Constitution could be written by the individuals in government today simply because of an inability to do something that's considered nowadays to be a bad thing, compromise. But our founding fathers were able to do it. Compromise is the key here. So, of course, I mentioned they needed to replace the Articles of Confederation. Previous video, we talked about things like Shays' Rebellion, exposed the problems with the Articles of Confederation, and showed us that, hey, we got to fix this. This is totally need to be fixed. Now, initially, the plan was just to work on the Articles of Confederation and revise them and make it better. But it became pretty quickly apparent that no, we just need to absolutely scrap it all together and start fresh with a clean slate. 55 delegates came to the Constitutional Convention. So you had 55 people there, all right? 70 were invited, but not all of them came for various reasons. We'll discuss that. George Washington, the man, the myth, the legend, was chosen as the chairman. And here's a picture of him very gallantly. I'm going to circle him because he's just, it's just George Washington, He's kind of like a little bit of a hero for me. So there he is. Ooh, look at those calves. He must working out. He actually was very athletic. He was known for that. So you have George Washington chosen to preside over the Constitutional Convention. He is the hero of the Revolutionary War. He is the most respected man in politics. He commands a presence. He is so like much of a hero, a national hero, that there really was only one choice here, and that's Washington, who could keep this group in line. That's key. Good leadership, even in the Constitutional Convention, meant all the difference. You have this old dude down here. We all know this guy. He was the oldest delegate at the Constitutional Convention. Okay, he was well up into his 80s, and so he gets to sit because he's old. I should be able to sit because I'm oldest person in the class usually. So anyway, this is the makeup of the people at the Constitutional Convention. Now, one thing I want to point out to you is who was there. Who in general was there? Well, they're all older. They're all white. No women not a woman's voice was involved with the authoring of our Constitution, and of course, no people of color. So, was it a true cross section of our society? No, but was it a cross section of our governing bodies? Yes. And I don't want to say that made the Constitution bad or anything. That's not the point. The point is just that this is a different time, and today, if you were to write a Constitution, you would involve a lot more voices. And I want to come back to this idea of the Enlightenment too. Just remember, okay, our founding fathers were very much part of Enlightenment philosophy, which, if you remember from previous videos, was a movement in Europe, a philosophical movement in Europe that wanted to basically create a better society based on facts, like facts matter above all. And you can see that in the way our court system was set up in the Constitution. The Enlightenment philosophy, believes in things like life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I mean, these ideas were the ideas swirling around in the heads of our founding fathers. What they want to do is create a government that worked for everybody, not just for the privileged, even though they themselves were privileged. There it is, Independence Hall. You can go there if you want to. It's like a total museum and whatnot, but this is where the Constitution was written. It's a pretty special place. It really does have like it's a key part of our history. It's one of the most important documents ever written, and probably the most important document written in our nation's history, for sure. Actually, yeah. Well, anyone could argue that. Well, maybe some Dr. Seuss stuff is more important. I don't know. So, who wasn't there? So, the 70 people who were invited, the 55 that didn't show up, they had various reasons for not coming there. And I really want to stress to all of you that our founding fathers were not a monolith of brain thinking exactly the same way. I often hear that from people. Well, what do the founding fathers think? And the answer should always be, which one? Because they all didn't think the same. These were brilliant men who had lots of ideas, and sometimes they argued tooth and nail and fought like cats and dogs over these ideas. Compromise is what made the Constitution possible. But these are the people who couldn't show up. So up in the upper left-hand corner, you have one and only TJ, Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was in France at the time of the authoring of the Constitution, but he himself did not want to go because he was an anti-federalist. He did not want a strong federal government, and really the whole point of calling the Constitutional Convention was to create a strong federal government, so he was completely anti that. And so he actually said that this is an assembly of demigods. So basically he's saying these are bad people, and they're going to mess with our stuff and our rights, okay? John Adams, down there in the lower right-hand corner. Now, John Adams was a Federalist, and he supported the idea of a Constitutional Convention, but he was in England. He was the U.S. ambassador to England. These two guys are really interesting, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, because they were diametrically opposed politically. They actually completely and totally disagreed on almost everything when it came to politics, okay? They both were presidents. John Adams II, Thomas Jefferson III. Both of them did great things for our country. But one thing that's interesting about these two guys is they worked together so much throughout the Revolution. I mean, these two guys were part of the Committee of Five that wrote the Declaration of Independence. So these guys worked together a lot. And it's an amazing thing to see that these two guys actually were really close friends. At some points they became enemies, but they always in the end had this weird, respectful friendship of each other, which I shouldn't say weird. It's good. It's good to be friendly and respectful of people with different views than you. You can disagree and not be disagreeable. At any rate, fun fact, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, for having some kind of weird cosmic like connection through history and being two of our founding fathers, actually died on the same day. Conspiracy much? I don't know. Maybe. No, not really. Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine is a guy who wrote the pamphlet Common Sense. He was a very extreme revolutionary, and he thought, I smell a rat. And the rat he smelled is he thought to himself, you know what these punks are going to do? They're going to start writing in elitism into our laws. And before you know it, we're going to have a king. And he's like, no, I smell a rat. This is Samuel Adams, another huge revolutionary. This guy is the founder of the Sons of Liberty, who really was the agitators that made the revolution happen. Okay, he said, I reject your convention. He was also John Adams's cousin. I bet you that would have been an awkward like Thanksgiving dinner, considering that they totally disagreed politically. Okay, so principles of the Constitution. By principles of the Constitution, these are just like the big ideas that came out of the Constitutional Convention. Once again, I'm not going into details, just big ideas. First of all, limitations of the power of government. One of the most important things about our Constitution is it doesn't give absolute power to anyone. And every single part of government has limitations on their power. That's key, because if you unlimit power and you can just unleash it, before you know it, you're going to have a king or a dictator. Bad, bad things. Separation of powers. In our Constitution, there's like specific holding bins of power in our nation. Okay, we have 3 branches of government. Each branch of government has certain roles to fulfill. Okay, separation of powers. Popular sovereignty. I think, and I will say, this is the single most important part of our Constitution without question, hands down. This is the part of our Constitution that we love the most. It's our ability as the people to choose our leaders. Popular sovereignty means you vote, and whoever wins the most votes wins the office. Very simple concept, right? That is how democracy works. And the beauty of our democracy is, since we believe in popular sovereignty in this nation, you can always have your next opportunity to choose. If you don't like what's going on, you vote and you choose a different way. Last but not least, federalism. Federalism is a little bit complicated, and I'm going to actually draw on this thing right here and try to explain to you as best as I can so you get the concept of what federalism is. So, federalism is basically the idea that we have levels of government. I'm going to draw one big circle right here. That's a pretty good circle. I'm going to put F. Oh, this is really a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. This is going to be boring for you guys. And don't laugh. I'm trying. Okay, that's supposed to say Fed. The next layer, I'm going to just put ST for state. S, doop, doop, T. And then right here, we're going to do just one last layer, and we're going to make it simple and just put a big L. That means local. Okay, federalism. What does this even mean? Well, basically it means that we have different layers of government, and they each have different responsibilities and powers. Put it in other words, you hear people say, oh, the federal government, the feds, federal government. What does that all mean? Well, the federal government basically is the government that rules over all of us. Idaho, Washington, Maine, Texas, I don't care. All of our countries, or states, not countries. All of our states are under the control of the federal government, okay? The federal government's laws are the same for me as they are for someone who lives all the way over on the other coast, New Jersey or something like that, okay? Now, the next layer of government is the states. Each state has its own constitution, it has its own set of state laws. So if I were to live in Idaho and have to follow certain state laws, if I go to, like, say, Oregon, the laws are going to be different. So each state makes their own laws, all right? anything that the federal government's powers are not limited to, okay, so the federal government has limited powers, all the rest of the powers to make laws and control our society, make it harmonious and happy, and blah, 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 goes to the states. So if you live in one state to the next state, the laws are going to change. Now, a good example of that, and I think the most in your face example of that would be legalized marijuana, because that's like a big controversial deal. If you go to a lot of states around Idaho, you can legally, as you know, an adult, a 21-year-old, I think in most states, you can purchase legally marijuana. If you can't do that in Idaho, that's illegal. So state laws are different depending on where you are. Last but not least, the L stands for local. Your local government is basically your county government, like your county commissioners. It's your city councils, it's your mayors, and they make all the local rules just for your town. Now, each layer of government, there's a lot of laws we have to follow. And you have to understand that the federal laws affect all of us, the state laws affect just within the state, local laws affect just within your county or city that you're at. So I hope that makes sense to most of you. We'll work with this and make it make sense in the end. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk about today. I'm not going to go into the deep, dark doldrums of detail. That was some awesome alliteration, by the way. Deep, dark doldrums of detail. Wow, I'm good. Anyway, hey kids, enjoy the rest of your life, and hopefully you know a little bit more about the Constitutional Convention.